Alrighty, Geometry Chapter 1, Section 1. We're talking about points, lines, and planes. Now, I'm just going to read through these definitions. If you need to copy these down, go ahead and pause the video and you can do that now. All right, I'm going to just talk about these. We got a point. A point has no dimension, right? A dot represents a point, and I learned this in college. This was a cool little piece of it. It's a piece with no part. I think that's a neat way to say it. Can't be broken up. It's very simple. It's the most simple piece of geometry, a point, right? There's no piece of it. It is itself, right? So we would talk about a point if we're talking about like a coordinate plane where we're like graphing it, then we might have like the point A, 2, 3, right? And that would be a point. Otherwise, it would just be a little dot with its letter next to it. Next up, we have a line. A line has one dimension. It is represented by a line with two arrowheads, and that two arrowheads is important, but it extends without end. Through any 2 points, there is one line. Let me see if I can put some space there. Yeah. So if we have a point here and a point here, this is A, this is B, then we could put our ruler or the side of a book or something, and we could draw a straight line through both of those, right? And now we get to the two arrowheads. We have to have the arrowheads, right? Because that signifies that it keeps going, right? We're not going to draw the rest of it, but it just keeps going forever, okay? Now, to label a line, we could say we have line A, B, right? We talk about it with 2 points, line A, B. We could say line A, B, where we use the symbolism, which is like we put a little diagram of a line above it, or you can also read it backwards. So we could say that this is BA, right? Those are all talking about the same line, right? It's just saying the same thing, just different ways. There's 3 different ways. Now, additionally, and I normally won't do this, but sometimes the book will do this, they will have a little like a M, a little lowercase. Normally it's a lowercase letter there. Now, what that would be to say, we could say that this is line M also, okay? I normally won't label things like that, but that is sometimes the way that the book will label it. All right, so that's a line. Next up, we have a plane. A plane has 2 dimensions, right? Think about a piece of paper. A piece of paper is a good way to think about a plane. A plane has 2 dimensions. It is represented by a shape that looks like a floor or a wall, but it extends without end. Through any 3 points not on the same line, there's exactly one plane. And you use 3 points to label a plane. Okay? We're going to have a diagram down in a few problems later. But let's just do an example of a label of a plane. We would say plane, we have to write the whole word, plane, and then you have 3 letters, like A, B, C. Okay. Additionally, sometimes, like how we had in green up here with the line M, sometimes there will be a letter. So it might just be that you can label it with one letter, plane, I don't know, we'll say R or something like that, okay? But we're going to have to look at the diagrams to know that. Next up, collinear points. Points that lie on the same line, right? Collinear, right? We've got that word linear. And I'm not thinking that there's not supposed to be an extra L there, but I'm not sure. Sorry about that. So collinear, co-line, same line, okay? Points that are on the same line. So if I have a line here, and I've got a bunch of points, right? All of those points are collinear because they're on the same line, right? That point, the black point there, is not collinear with the blue points, right? Because it's not on the line. Right. Next up, we have coplanar, right? We have the word plane. Okay, coplanar points are points on the same plane. Okay. All right, let's scroll down. Let's look at our actual examples here. Now, it is good to copy down this picture. I know the picture isn't super easy to draw, but I do want to talk about it a little bit. And this should be a 2. So what this picture is showing us is the kind of shaded piece, this here, oh my goodness, this here, that is a plane, okay? Think about a piece of paper that's laying on your desk or your table, whatever you're at right now. Okay, you've got a piece of paper laying on that. This line would be like if you have your pencil pointing at it, right? Like you're writing on the paper, right? It's kind of pointing up, okay? And this line here is going along your piece of paper. So that would be like if you laid your pencil down on the paper, okay? So that's what's happening there. We have a piece of paper laying down, that's the plane. We have our pencil standing straight up on it, that's the green, right? And this other piece of the green, that would be like underneath the piece of paper, right? And that's kind of hard to be able to visualize with your pencil. And then we have the red piece, which is a pencil laying down on the paper, right? So we want to list 2 lines in the diagram. All right, well, I had just had 2 lines. I've got this one here, and we're going to label it with 2 points. We'll label it with the point Q, and we'll label it with the point P, right? And then we're going to put the little image of a line above it, right? It matters also, and I don't know if I've said this already, that these arrowheads are there. They have to be there. If they aren't there, then it's going to be wrong, right? Then it's talking about something else, okay? So we have line QP, and then we have this one here, and we'll call that line ST. All right. We could also label these, you don't have to write this down, but just some other ways that we could do this. QP here, we have this little N. We could say line N. That's talking about line QP. And for the other one, ST, we could say line M. Okay. Now I like to use the 2 letters with the little arrow or the line on top of it, but you can use the single letter if you'd like to. All right, number 2, label the drawn plane. Okay, a plane takes 3 points that are not on the same line. Okay, 2 of them can be on the same line, but not the third. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab from our line that is laying on the piece of paper, right? Think about your pencil laying on the piece of paper. I'm going to grab 2 points from it. Let's grab point S and point P. So we have S and P, and then we need 1 point that is not on line SP. So let's take point V. So SPV, and we want to put the word plane in front of it. Plane SPV. And that's it. That's our labeled plane. Now you'll see the word R, or the letter R there, right? That's kind of like how we have line N and line M. We could also say we have plane R. Okay. I normally don't like to use that, but that is an appropriate way to do it, okay? I like this way more. I like, if I can write, I like this way more. All right, more definitions. A line segment, sometimes just called a segment, is a part of a line that consists of 2 endpoints and all the points on the line between the endpoints, all right? So a segment would be like this. It does not have arrows on the end, right? It does not have arrows. If this is A and this is B, then we would call this A, B with just a little line above it. No arrowheads, right? No arrowheads, right? And this is why it's so important that you label, where's the other AB? Or we'll just look right here. Right there, we're talking about a line with the QP, line QP, and then we have below segment AB, right? If we put arrows where they're not supposed to be, it's wrong. If we don't put arrows where they're supposed to be, it's also wrong, right? Make sure that you know what you're talking about and you're using the arrows only when needed. All right, array, right? array would be like if you have something like that. It's kind of like half a line. This would be array AB with one arrow. Notice that B is closer to the arrow than A is. So B is closer to the arrow again. Okay, that's a requirement. They have to be kind of in order. So whichever letter is closer to the arrow of the ray, that one has to be closer to the arrow of the ray when you label it. Next up, opposite rays. So opposite rays would look something like this. If we have a line, we have 3 points. Let me get some more room. 3 points. We'll say we have A, B, and C. There's a ray right here. The purple line is a ray, or the purple piece there is a ray, and the green piece is a ray. Together, if you kind of butt them up, they form the full line, right? So we could say that ray AB, oops, I have to put the A closer to the arrowhead. So this would be BA, ray BA, and ray BC. Those are opposite rays, right? Because together they make the full line. All right, going down to number 3 here. Give another name for line GH. Right? So line GH. We're talking about that one there. We could use the point J if we wanted to. So we could say line JG. We could say line JH. Or we could swap the letters and say line HG. Right? Those would all be appropriate answers. Right? And I think there's even more appropriate answers. You could swap the letters of those guys and it would be talking about the same line. All right? On your homework, whenever it says give another name for a line or a plane or something, you only need to list one of them, okay? Here I listed 3 just for example purposes. All right, next up, number 4. Name all the rays with endpoint J. Right, so we're talking about starting off at J, how many rays are there coming out of it, right? Think about it as if you're standing at a street intersection. How many different ways could you go, right? We could go this way, we could go this way, we could go this way, or we could go this way, right? There's 4 different ways. So I'm going to erase this so that I can see what I'm doing. They're all going to start with the J, and then we'll go towards E first, so JE. And then we'll have JG, JF, and JH. Right, those are our 4 different rays. All right. Next up, definition. 2 or more figures intersect, and that's our fancy word, intersect when they have 1 or more points in common, right? We know what an intersection is, right? Think of a road intersection. The intersection of the figures is the set of points that they have in common, okay, right? The intersection happens at the intersection. It's kind of weird to define that. Number 5, draw 2 lines that intersect. There's our 2 lines, they intersect at a point, right? Lines intersect at a point. Okay. Next up, and this is supposed to be number 6, draw 2 planes that intersect. Now, planes are kind of weird to draw, okay? Let me try to do my best. We're going to have like a little rectangle thing here. And I'm going to have it intersect on that bottom line there. We're going to have the other one coming out kind of like this. Let me do that just a little bit different. Right? It's kind of, well, let me see if I can do that just a little bit better. I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit better. Think about wherever you're sitting right now, you're probably inside. There's probably walls and ceilings, hopefully. If you look at the wall, one of your walls, and you look at the ceiling, there's going to be a line there, right? Whenever you're painting the room, it's really difficult to get that line to look really nice, right? That's what's happening right here. We have the wall, and that's one of our planes. And then we have the ceiling, that's another one of the planes, right? And they intersect at that line that's really hard to paint whenever you're painting a room. Okay, so this right here would be the intersection. Okay, and it is a line. So we're going to say planes intersect at a line. Okay, that's the big deal there. All right, number 7. Now you don't need to copy this down. You can if you'd like to, but I'm just going to talk about it a little bit, okay? List one of each, and we have our picture here. A segment, okay? A segment, we could say, well, this is a segment, AD, and we label that with just a little line above it, no arrowheads, right? A plane, let's talk about the side of the figure that's kind of like facing us, right? We're talking about this side, okay? We have 4 letters. We have to pick 3. It doesn't matter which 3 we pick. So we can say plane ADH. Okay. Now we need a point where 2 lines intersect. Well, let's look at AB and then AD. They would intersect at point A. Right? A plane intersection. Well, let's talk about the front. That's this one here. And the top. Right? They would intersect at this piece here. And that's going to be AD. And we're going to call it a line with arrowheads. Even though it's not drawn in there, the question says that it's a plane. And we know that planes intersect at a line, right? Another plane. Let's do the back plane this time. So that's going to be this one back here, right? And these dotted lines back there are meant to kind of signify that it's kind of hidden. It's kind of behind it. So we'll say plane BCG. And we want a point that is not on that plane. So let's grab point, I don't know, point E would work, right? Because it's not on that plane. So we'll say point E. Okay. There's all kinds of ways that you could label this. There's all kinds of answers you could have for these. I'm just trying to show you different ways to look at it, okay? All right. Number 8. Now these are all just kind of questions to make us think. A line blank has endpoints. Does a line have endpoints? A line never. A line never has endpoints. A line and a point sometimes. Right? You could have a line here, and you could have a point down here on the line, or you could have it up here, not on the line, right? So they sometimes intersect. A plane and a point sometimes. Okay, and the way that we could think about that is think about your piece of paper sitting on your desk, right? And then hold your pencil kind of like perpendicular to your desk to where you're like writing, to where you could write. The eraser of your pencil is above the piece of paper. It's not touching the piece of paper, right? So a plane and a point sometimes intersect, right? You could lay your pencil down and the eraser would touch the paper, but as long as it's standing up, it's not going to be touching it. 2 planes blank intersect at a line. 2 planes always intersect at a line. Okay. Now, two planes could be parallel to each other, right? Think about a piece of paper and then a piece of paper laying above it. They wouldn't intersect, but here it says that they do intersect, so they always intersect at a line. They either don't intersect or they intersect at a line. Number 12, any 3 points blank determine a plane. We're going to say sometimes. Okay, and the reason for that is that if all 3 points are on the same line, then we can't do that. We can't label the plane. They have to be 3 non-collinear, right? 2 of them can be on a line, but the third one has to be on a different one, not on that line. And then it says 2 lines that are not parallel, right? We remember what parallel is, just to remind us. Parallel means that they have the same slope. It means that they never ever touch. This would be what parallel means. This is saying they're not parallel, right? So maybe it would be something like, there's a line, and then here's a line, right? They're not parallel. They always intersect, right? Because if we were to extend this black line a little bit, it would end up touching, okay? 2 lines that are not parallel always intersect. All right, that is lesson 1. Make sure that you have these definitions down. You can go back and find those in the video if you need. And all right, good luck on your homework.